Thank you very much. That's great. Yeah. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Today I'd like to talk about automated phenotyping of soft fruit. So very particular type of crop, and this is due to the fact that this at Lincoln we work a lot with soft fruit industry. We've got good connections with industrial partners, with the farmers. And part of that, and we work basically at robotization and automation of technology for that industry. So a large chunk is about robotics. So robotic fleets to help with crop care and harvesting applications. But we've also got a team of researchers and students who are working on the aspects related to phenotyping. So we've got. I'm today really an ambassador of my students and postdocs. So this is the what we will see today is work of their work, and that includes Raymond, Justin, Nico, Catherine, Carolina, Chris, and Taeyong. Today we will look the short overview of my talk. We'll look at the phenotyping of strawberries. I'll try to explain what it is, which characteristics we'd like to look at, preferably from mobile robots, so we can see that we are interested in phenotyping techniques that can be actually deployed on the robots and achieve high throughput and allow for automated deployment in the field. So in field is very important. If we think about phenotyping as a word, Cyril gave a very good introduction to that term. I think there is an interesting aspect here. Phenotyping is typically used by when we think about measuring the traits for the breeding programs. Yeah, genetic programs and development of new varieties of plants. However, measuring different traits actually comes handy for other applications like monitoring, quality assurance, forecasting of crop, or even robot harvesting. We typically maybe do not use the word phenotyping there, but we just say we measure the fruit size or fruit location, but in essence these are all phenotyping, measuring phenotypic traits. Our team works on a range of different applications, phenotyping applications, and measuring different traits. I will only focus on selected 3 today. So so we will look at how you can count fruit directly in field. The second bit is it's about also a counting application, but it's about Achene. So these are the small seeds on the surface of the strawberry, and the final one is about the volume and mass estimation. Can you do that basically in field? And then the final bit is to talk about phenotyping for robotics. So it's a sort of whilst the core of the presentation is about robotic technology for phenotyping, the last part is an interesting project that starts, where this sort of flow is reversed, and we can see how phenotyping can be useful for robotics. Yeah? So if we look at what type of traits we would be interested in, there is actually quite many when it comes to soft fruit or strawberries in particular. I've managed to dig out this article, which comes from this large American strawberry breeding program, where this group of researchers try to, in systematic way, to look at what traits one should look at in the breeding programs. And you can see here I've highlighted those that are relevant. So these are the external fruit characteristics that we can see, plant characteristics, that's another important one, but also phenology. So we talk here about the development and temporal aspect, and some of the aspects like, of the morphology of the plant, like, the trusses, or where the strawberry flowers. These are visible traits that can be observed. There is lots of actual traits that are done in the lab. So when we look at especially the internal characteristics, like, firmness, sugar level, and so on, these are internal fruit characteristics. That includes also fruit chemistry, and for obvious reasons, this would be a very difficult type of traits to automate. So from the selected types, I've highlighted those that are of interest and can be done in a non-destructive way in the field. We will look at these three applications, as I mentioned. So fruit counting. So counting here means actually counting fruit at different maturity stage. So obviously one is interested in how many ripe strawberries we've got, but also how many unripe ones, because that helps with forecasting, preparing for harvest, for planning and management, but also the flowers. So strawberries, when they flower, that stage of the maturity is very important, because if you know that there is a flower, then you can quite reliably predict when will be the time that this flower will turn into strawberry and will ripen. Yeah. So and that's fruit counting is useful for breeding, as I mentioned, but also for monitoring and forecasting. The other application, the seeds. So strawberry is actually a weird fruit. We call it a fruit, but it's actually a assemblage of fruit. So the small dots that you see on the surface of the strawberry, these are actual fruits. So the fruit is a swarm of fruits, and basically these small seeds, as we typically call them, these are called achenes, and how they are distributed, how many of them are on a particular strawberry, it's a very, very useful trait in the breeding program. But also tells about the quality of that particular berry. And the final one is the volume mass estimation. So we'll look at the non-destructive measurement of those, quite self-explanatory, and very important trait to measure. So I call them apps. Let's call them apps today. The app one, counting by tracking. So the idea is here that instead of doing counting through detection, so just take the individual detections of the fruit, which you can do as well. You employ tracking, and you can do so because we are looking at the scenario where the cameras are mounted on the phenotyping robot, like we see below, which traverses the rows of strawberries, with a constant speed. And you can basically utilize the information from multiple views here without, and through tracking, you don't have to actually reconstruct the entire environment, and instead of tracking the detected objects, what you do, you count the number of tracks. And so this work done by Raymond is utilizing the one of the classic multi-object tracking frameworks, which is based on SORT. It's a very pragmatic and suitable for online application framework, which was extended then by Wojke and colleagues to also include re-identification step. So what's new in this work is that you can think about it as an example where a general model that is typically these multi-object tracking trackers are used for tracking humans. So and these are quite general frameworks. So in this case, we basically make them application specific, and the proposed technique is to actually add the multi-class component to that architecture, which actually takes into account the maturity stage of the fruit to enforce a better discrimination between the features. Yeah, so that's the core innovation. Another aspect is that some of the knowledge from the robotic odometry is included, and some specific augmentation during the training is performed. So that paper is to appear towards the end of September in ICVS, so will be available online. The core innovation here is so that's the whole tracking framework. The novel part here is that this deep sort algorithm, which has got the re-identification part, is actually extended to multi-classes. So you can see here that in the last part we've got two heads after the embeddings. One is responsible for re-identification, called the re-identification head, and the other one is the classification head. And during training, this solution allows for better separation between and discrimination between the tracked fruit, and that can be seen in projecting the feature space into into two dimensions. So here on the left side we've got the original implementation, which you could call it also single class implementation, that shows you how the features are mapped here. So these individual points correspond to a different class. So unripe, ripe, and flowering, and strawberry at the flowering stage. And we can see that with this extra head in that system, the separation between these classes is better, and that improves the tracking. So especially that is very effective if you've got occlusion. So very often if you've got that scenario that the robot moving in front of the fruits, then you've got the occlusions that come from leaves, other strawberries. Strawberries grow in clusters. So this this modification actually enables improved tracking, and we can see here the some graphs that show the comparison between the baseline that significantly undercounts the strawberries. So this work currently we're working on further improvements. So one of the things is to introduce the 3D information, to introduce the reconstruction component, and also we are also looking a little bit more carefully at the aspects of occlusions, which can be handled, which cannot, and so that's the current work. Application 2, it's this Achene counting I mentioned here. So we've got a nice graphical depiction of what the Achene is here. So it's a very difficult trait to calculate. If you look at this paper I mentioned earlier, you will see that the measures that are being used are very subjective, very coarse. For example, you look at the overall uniformity that can be assessed by a human grader. They just look at the strawberry and say, okay, these Achenes are uniformly distributed, and that's all you get. So it is a very difficult trait to calculate. Even if you would look at this high resolution 2D image, you will see that that these are difficult objects to actually detect and localize. They've got different colors depending on the species and the maturity stage, but also due to the geometry of the strawberry, it's very difficult just to regress that information from it to the image. So what my student Justin is looking is to exploit the 3D information for that purpose. So he is utilizing a data set, again, an American team, which a few years ago they've performed very high resolution 3D scans of berries in lab conditions. So this is, using very high quality scans and structure for motion reconstruction, so you can see the quality of these models. So it's not a technology that you can deploy directly on the robots, but nevertheless, this is the first sort of step. It's still work in progress to see, how well we can do with these good scans, and if that works well, then we can sort of transfer that into less precise and in-field sensors, data collected from these in-field sensors. So because the strawberries, they've got ellipsoidal character, one thing that one could do is to simplify the convolution in 3D. So instead of going directly with the points, you can unwrap that image. You can project that sphere into a 2D plane, and then you can consider you can design quite effective 2D networks. So that's the approach. The overview of the method is as follows. So as an input, we supply 3D coordinates after the projection, together with surface normals, so that the network doesn't have to learn that type of information. And then there is a special architecture that predicts the most likely locations of the individual achenes, and this is called the Gaussian map. It's basically an indication with some uncertainty around each location about the location of that object. So what is nice about these Gaussian maps is that the references can be generated from key point annotations, which are then just enhanced by a Gaussian kernel with a fixed or variable size. And then you perform clustering and a very straightforward operation, and what you get is the cluster count and also the location of the clusters, if you are interested in that. The network architecture is based on UNet, which is one of these classic architectures that is used with some minor modifications to which basically make that network more accurate for this type of application. And how the whole thing works. So Justin has compared that to classic density-based methods, which are again used in crowd estimation and counting people in crowds, and this approach achieves much better results. So here are some preliminary summative results. We can see that compared to classic state-of-the-art algorithms, density-based algorithms, we can get twice or improve even 3 times the performance. Yeah? So this approach works well for uniformly distributed achenes, which is, this is the case where you've got a quite healthy fruit, but also if you've got fruit with less obvious how to say, quality, or the fruit that's got less obvious geometry, let's call it like this, then and where the uniformity is not so of the density of this achenes is not so nice, then that algorithm also works there, and it also works in annotated regions, so it's a quite good method. It's as I mentioned, it's still work in progress. It's not yet to be deployed in field situations. So this is the ongoing work. And the final app is the volume and mass estimation. So again, the work will be presented at ICBS, again done by Raymond. So you look at methods where you can use RGBD images together with information from the detector, of the segmentation mask, to calculate the volume. So 3 methods were investigated. So based on ellipsoid and some methods which exploit the symmetries like dissummation and surface area integration. So this have been evaluated in the lab, and also validated with the mobile robot. So one could ask, okay, so you look at this sort of quite basic geometric methods. Why don't you train a network? And so this is ongoing work. The problem is that if you want to design a network for volume estimation or regression, you have to really put a lot of effort into annotation. You have to measure each of this, both the volume and the size of these berries individually. So that takes lots of time, and hence only these baseline methods were investigated in this paper. But nevertheless, you can achieve quite good results. So these are the errors for the best methods here. And if you assume that the density of the fruit is constant, you can also estimate the mass. Yeah. So and for particular variety at the specific maturity stage, then this assumption that the density is similar is okay. I'll show. But in general, that won't be true. Yeah. So this is a current work that we are investigating. We've also validated the approach in the field, so we couldn't measure the weight and volume of the strawberries in the field. That would be very difficult. But what has been demonstrated is that if you take the strawberry different maturity stage, that the profiles of the weights calculated by that method, they differ, and here on the top we can see some visual examples here. So ongoing work, as I mentioned, is into actually training regressors using more data than what we've done so far. The second bit is to take mass in a more serious way. And so one of the ideas is, how you can infer the mass of the objects is, I think it's quite interesting concept is through interaction with the objects. So for example, imagine that you've got this strawberry hanging, and then you poke the strawberry with a robotic arm with a known force, and thanks to and you can look at the behavior of that strawberry, the frequency with which swings, and deduct the in a non-destructive way the mass of the object. So it's a paper written by Nico that you can have a look. We haven't looked at the strawberry exactly. It's a simple mass spring system that we've looked at. So it's all lab-based experiments, but the idea is that you use the RGBD sensor to segment out to cluster the video into regions of individual frequencies, and based on that you estimate the frequency of the objects, and you can estimate the other parameters of that spring mass system. So not only for so this approach, it's a part of the PhD. So Nico will be looking at how you can use actually that methodology maybe for inferring other object properties. So peduncle strength, but also the idea of compliance of soft objects. which is especially important if we talk about robotic manipulation in this leafy and around leafy and soft plants. I'm aware that my time is coming to the end, so very shortly, this idea of phenotyping for robotics. So this is the current development. It's a PhD project that is funded by NIAP. Sorry, it's done together with NIAP EMR, which is the breeding unit in UK, and it's funded by BBSRC and industry to actually look at the developing new techniques for high throughput phenotyping from robotics, but for a interesting purpose. So to identify which varieties of strawberries and which traits actually make them more suitable for robotic harvesting. So in general, strawberries are easier to pick when they are not in clusters, but obviously if you've got clusters, then you've got more yield from your strawberries. So Catherine is going to look at which specific traits and which specific variety of these strawberries will be suitable for easier picking by the robots. And we've noticed in the past couple of years that depending on the some of the varieties are easier to pick, but we don't yet fully understand which traits actually are responsible for that. So this is an interesting project. So I hope in a couple of years, Catherine and myself will be able to report more on these findings. So that's everything from me today. Thank you very much. I'm happy to answer any questions, and if you are interested in any of this sort of work presented today and others in more details, these are the publications. Thank you very much.